Thank you for coming back. You're very welcome. Now, we're going to do an update today on various countries, the UK, the US numbers, and a few other countries. And there's some pretty bad news actually from South America today as well, and a concern about the spread of this Brazilian variant of the virus, which does appear to be a lot more transmissible. So we're going to talk about that. The bottom news on the Brazilian virus is that it seems to be causing a great excess of cases in Brazil, but we might just have caught it in time as far as Europe's concerned. We don't have any data on the United States yet. So that's kind of the bottom line on that. But I want to start with some good news. So we've been following Carly, who's a nurse from Oregon. So let's get a message from Carly to start us off today. Carly, over to you. Thank you.
Good morning, Dr. Campbell. Well, I'm outside getting my vitamin D. Really not very much skin exposure though, so I'll be taking my supplement today. I wanted to let you know that I got my second Pfizer vaccine yesterday, and today, 24 hours later, I'm feeling much better. Last night, about 6 to 8 hours after the vaccine, I developed a headache. It wasn't too bad. I didn't take any medication for it. I did not develop a low-grade fever, although some of my colleagues have when they've received the vaccine. And other than that, I just felt achy all over, like I was coming down with something. So I just took it easy last night, stayed in bed, caught up on some reading, and then went to bed. And this morning I feel much better other than the sore arm. Not 100% feeling myself this morning, but just about well worth the vaccine. So now I'm fully vaccinated and can expect to achieve hopefully 90 to 95% immunity in the next week or two. I hope you all have a great day. Today's already a great day here because it's sunny, which is unusual this time of year in the Pacific Northwest. I hope you all have a great day. Bye-bye. Good morning, Dr. Campbell. Well, I'm outside.
Okay. Come on to that in a minute. Where are we? There we go. Thanks for that, Carly. Really appreciate that. So, as is commonly experienced, Carly felt a bit off the next day. She didn't take any medicines to make her feel better. She just let the immune response carry on as normal, picking up a bit the day after the second dose of the vaccine. So it does seem that a lot of people are feeling a bit ropey after the second dose, not so bad after the first dose. But I'm just so pleased that Carly has a high level of immunity, and if she is to be infected, 95% immunity we believe, and if she is to be infected, it's remarkably unlikely she will be very ill. So excellent news. Now moving on to that's just if you've got a picture or a video clip of the pandemic. I'll just include that. Lots of people have been asking me to put that in. Now just. This is a bit frivolous, but it's not. There's an important point behind it. So we're going to start off with some multiple choice questions, the same as I've been giving students for many, many years. Right, multiple choice question. The Australian Tennis Open, which seems to be going ahead. So basically what's happening here is tennis players from all around the world are going to be flying to Australia and knocking a ball back and forth across the net. So what do we think about this? Option A, is it a good idea? Is it crass commercial insanity? Is it an opportunity for highly infectious variants of concern to enter Australia? Or is it an opportunity for cross-infection during travel? And you can pick whichever of these you would like. So let me think. I expect you've thought as well by now. So it's a good idea. I don't think so. Crass commercial insanity, some may say so. Opportunities for highly infectious variants of concern to enter Australia. I think that one's probably right. Opportunities for cross-infection during travel. Yep. So the answer there is B, C and D. Hope you got that one right. Next multiple choice question relates to football in the UK. Mass hugs on the football pitch and chanting bizarre chants in the dressing room as a result of emotions engendered by kicking a ball around the field by 11 or 12 men on one team and the other. So is this a good idea? Let me think. No. Is it a potential source of super spreading events? I think it could be. I'm sure they protest about testing, but I still think it's a risk. Is it the worst possible imaginable example at the current time? Should these people who seem to consider themselves elite be setting a good example? Let me think. Yes, I think they should, so it's the worst possible example imaginable at the time. Is it an illustration of one rule for the elite and another rule for us plebs? Yes, I believe it is. So the answer there again is B, C and D, coincidentally. So there you go. Hope you got those right. I mean that's okay, it's a bit silly, but the reason I did that, it was really annoying me. I saw these clips on the BBC of footballers. You know, they put a ball into a particular part of the pitch, and then they have this exuberant emotional reaction, exaggerated emotional reaction, I would imagine, and then that causes chanting in the dressing room for some reason I don't understand either, in a confined space. So using their voices loudly in a confined space with other people. I'm probably using my voice too loudly now because I get annoyed about it. But there's only me. There's only little old me here, so I've no one to cross-infect. So there we go. That's been annoying me. Right, now Brazil. Now this this next clip is well, it is distressing. Now we don't speak the language, of course, but you'll hear the per favors and you'll hear the oxygen from this nurse who's just been looking after people. Now I often don't play clips from social media because they're difficult to verify, but this has been verified by BBC News, so I am happy with this one. So let's see if we can play this one.
Pessoal, eu peço misericórdia de vocês. Nós estamos numa situação deplorável. Simplesmente acabou o oxigênio de toda uma unidade de saúde. Não tem oxigênio, é muita gente morrendo. Quem tiver disponibilidade, por favor, oxigênio, traga aqui para o SPA da Policlínica da Redenção. Tem muita gente morrendo, pelo amor de Deus. Por favor, eu peço que vocês disparem esse vídeo para um monte de lugar. Por favor, tem muita gente morrendo, minha gente. Por favor, pelo amor de Deus. Pelo amor de Deus. Gente, essa é a situação, para vocês entenderem. Essa é a situação. Essa é a situação. Duas bombas só chegaram. Quem puder trazer, a polícia está ajudando. A diretora está aqui desesperada da unidade. Pelo amor de Deus. Pelo amor de Deus, quem puder ajudar, trazer bomba de oxigênio aqui para o SPA da Redenção, Policlínica da Redenção, por favor, tragam bomba, ajudem. Pessoal, eu peço misericórdia.
Well, yeah, there you go. There's not much to be said to that, really. Although maybe there is something to be said. I mean, we were bouncing up and down on this channel about the possible limitations of oxygen supply back in January 2020. And if you talk to any 11 or 12-year-old you meet in the park and say, do human beings need oxygen to survive? Then I think they'll probably know that. And yet the infrastructure is not put in place when we know we've got a respiratory viral pandemic. What do you say? I'm glad to see some oxygen did arrive, delivered by the local police authorities there. But other areas, we believe, are not so fortunate. So now this is Manaus in the Amazon area. Suffered very badly in the first wave. I remember covering this back in April, I think it was. And the health systems collapsed in some areas. So this is what we've feared all the way through. Severe oxygen shortages, as we've seen, some hospitals have run out. Rapid rise in infection. And it appears to be from the new Brazilian variant. Now, we don't know a lot about this yet, but it does seem to be a highly transmissible variant, similar to the 2012 variant in the UK, which we know is about 55% more transmissible than the old variant. So South Africa, Brazil, and the so-called UK 2012 variant, all more transmissible. In a sense, this is to be expected because this is just the virus evolving. The virus is trying to survive. It's trying to reproduce. And this is what simple evolution does. Now, over time, viral virulence will go down over time in a pandemic virus, because what will happen is the people most severely infected will die, and they will not pass the virus on. At least that's what normally happens. But the problem is this current virus, people are most infectious before they're most ill. So that normal evolutionary pattern of the virus getting less and less virulent isn't happening, doesn't seem to be happening. And the converse is the case, where the viral evolution is taking over and we're getting these more virulent forms. It is quite an alarming situation, and it's because of the virus being so transmissible during the pre-symptomatic, early symptomatic phase, and indeed in 20% of people completely asymptomatically. 20% of people that are infected transmit the virus completely asymptomatically. Some people say up to 30% of the virus, depending on the data you're using. So health professionals, many people could die due to lack of supplies and assistance in this particular area. And we believe this Amazonian area of Brazil is particularly a deprived area as well. And when we say deprived, I mean, we're talking about serious levels of poverty here. Really quite serious stuff at the best of times. Infections linked to the new variant of the virus, the Brazilian variant. So no more to be said about that, really. Disturbing, unnecessary situation. Lamentable senior leadership in Brazil. Denial, bravado, just an appalling. Yeah, and as usual, it's the ordinary poor people that suffer. Now, this Brazilian mutant, the mutation. So flights from the UK, South Africa, Portugal and Cape Verde banned from entering the UK. Of course, South America, obviously. Portugal and Cape Verde, Portuguese colonies, have a lot of links with Brazil. So I do fear that this new mutation, the Brazilian mutation, is already spreading in Portugal. And more on Portugal in a minute. And of course, if it's in Portugal, it can be in other places because we insist on still travelling around the world. So the flights from South America to the UK are now stopped, but were they stopped too late? Again, it's not difficult to work out that aeroplanes transmit infections quickly. So all these South American countries travel banned to the UK. And I imagine all other countries are following suit and banning travel from these countries. Having said that, there's exemptions. So like citizens and people with residency rights can still travel. They're just going to be asked to self-isolate. Well, to be quite honest, this is not good enough. People need to be supervised during the self-isolation. Just to say, right, I mean, and apart from that, if residents are returning from these countries, how are they going to get from the airport to where they're going to isolate? It's just not good enough. We need to be... Australia did this correctly, that they put on quotas of who could come back. They supervised everyone who came back, and look at it, no cases. Now in Australia, or essentially no cases. Looks like we're messing up again by being ill-disciplined. And of course, flights are already banned to the UK as a result of the South Africa variant. Now, the other thing here is we've banned flights from all of these African countries. Sorry, let's get this right. This is all South America. This is all South America here. This is the Brazilian mutation. This is a separate thing. This is the South Africa mutation now. So we're banned flights from all of these countries now. Now, what concerns me here is this because we suspect that the South Africa variant is in Namibia, Zimbabwe, Botswana. It looks like it could well be the case that the South Africa variant has spread. So to be clear, there's three variants of concern at the moment. There's the one that was first identified in the UK, the 2012. There's another one that's arose separately in Brazil, and another one that's arose separately in South Africa, but all more transmissible. So all a bit of a concern. Now, still on the topic of the Brazilian mutation, this is the South American Brazilian mutation, South America, Brazil. Mutations associated with rapid increase in cases. So Grant Shapps, Transport Minister, variant not in the UK as far as we know. But the flights were stopped too late. We'll know in the next few days. It's another example of reactivity. How many times have we said we need to move from reactivity to proactivity? So governments around the world, including the UK government in this situation, have said, oh, there's a problem there, we better react to that problem. Why not anticipate it? We could see this coming days ago. Not enough proactivity. I suppose reactivity is better than nothing, but not ideal. Now, the surveillance, the genomic surveillance in Brazil is not good in South America generally. Not good. So this was actually, this Brazilian mutation from South America was actually first detected in travellers going to Tokyo. So it was picked up by the Japanese genomic testing. And then it was traced back to South America. So it just shows the importance of good genomic testing, as they have in Japan, as we have in the UK, but as unfortunately they didn't have in Brazil, at least in this instance. Vaccines, are they still going to work? Probably. Now, the reason I'm still fairly optimistic about the vaccines we have working against the UK variant, the South Africa variant and the South America variant is because the vaccines induce such a polyclonal response. They act against many different parts of the virus. But as the virus drifts further and further away from the original virus that the vaccines were designed to combat, it may be necessary to modify the vaccines, perhaps in a year's time. But I expect the current wave of vaccination still to be effective against these new variants. And the vaccine scientists have assured us they can modify the vaccines reasonably readily if they need to do so. But for now, I don't believe they do need to do so. China, highest single-day infection since the 1st of March, 144 new cases in China. Hubei province, 22 million people locked down as a result. Now, whenever you have an outbreak, it's good to know where it came from and identify the infection drivers. So what is it that's driving the infection? So in summer in Europe, it was young people having a few drinks outside, as you might expect in summer in Europe. That was the infection driver. That was what was causing more cases. We looked at super spreaders and super spreading events as infection drivers. We looked at poor ventilation as infection drivers. But here they think it's rural residents. So 20,000 rural residents have been sent to a state-run, therefore ordered and disciplined quarantine facilities because it looks like rural transmission has been the cause of this outbreak. That's the infection driver. In largely agricultural communities have been the infection driver. And most of them, of course, as we would expect, are asymptomatic. Now, this 2012 mutation, we've been calling it the UK mutation and the Kent mutation. But actually, the people that do what's called phylogenetic analysis, so this is examining the way that the virus descends and you get various strands of the virus descending out. I mean, this is a simple tree of life sort of thing. So you'll get one type of the virus there, and then that will mutate into two types, and then that can mutate into other types. And what we end up with is like family trees of the virus. That strand there might be a virus which is less transmissible, so that could die out. That could be a dead end there. But the more transmissible forms, like the 2012, that they're going to increase in numbers. So it's a simple tree of life, evolutionary type thing, and examining how this is related to this. That's called phylogenetics, the genetics of the descent. So looking at that sort of science, people think that the mutation in the UK, and I'm not trying to shift the blame here by any means, it's just interesting to note, but it could have arisen in Italy because there was a very similar mutation in Italy circulating back in August. So it's now a global threat. There's no question about that, because people insist in flying around places from the UK. But it involves six key amino acids of the SARS coronavirus 2 receptor binding domain. So we know this, don't we? So we'll draw the diagram again quickly. So there's the ACE2 receptor on the surface of a cell. So here's the cell here. That's the cell that could become infected with its nucleus there. And there's the ACE2 receptor site. Now the infectious spike of the virus fits into this receptor site here. Fits into that receptor site. It's not drawn to scale, of course. So that's the spike of the virus there. And of course that's not drawn to scale because that would be the virus there, and here's the spikes here like this. Now, so this is the spike protein here. Now, the bit of the spike protein that actually forms bonds and binds with the ACE2 receptor to get into it, the bit that actually binds to cause the infection, that's called the receptor binding domain. So this area here, where the binding actually takes place, is the receptor binding domain. And it looks like there's been mutations to the protein structure in that. That's made it more able to latch on, And as well as that, there's some data that is suggesting that people with the new variants are shedding more of the virus as well. So there's kind of two reasons there. But the point is, some of these mutations were detected before in Italy. So it could well be that it's a slight variation that came from Italy. So the N501, same amino acid. So the mutation actually in the UK is N501Y. So this is just one amino acid shift. So it could well be that it came from Italy. I mean, it doesn't matter. We're not apportioning blame here. It's irrelevant. We've got this problem, and we now need to deal with this problem, as we haven't done too well up until recently. So where it came from doesn't matter, but the UK has got particularly good genomic surveillance, which is probably why we picked it up first. So did it arise in Kent? Still could have done, but this is evidence that it might not have done. I mean, the Spanish flu in 1918, the reason we call it the Spanish flu, it didn't arise in Spain at all. It almost certainly came from the United States to Europe in troop ships during the First World War. But the reason we call it the Spanish flu is because in the first outbreak in 1918, there was new censorship in the UK and Europe and France and Germany because of the war. But there was a relatively free press in Spain. So the first people heard about it in the UK was news dribbling in from Spanish news outlets. So people said, "Oh, there's this new influenza in Spain. It must be from Spain. We'll call it the Spanish flu." But it wasn't. It was purely because the Spanish had the most liberal press at the time. Anyway, that's by the by. But it is interesting. Now, the United Kingdom itself, some early indications that cases are levelling off. Now, they are levelling off. In other words, they're no longer increasing, but they're remaining at a very high level, 46, 45, 48,000. Over 3 million officially diagnosed now. So it looks like the increase has stopped, but we're now seen to be a bit plateaued. And if we plateau at a long time, because we're plateaued at such a high plateau, it's still going to cause immense difficulties and stress on the health service. Estimated R number 1 to 1.4 at the moment, pretty hard to tell. Daily infection growth rate range was 0 to plus 6% per day, but that was on the 8th of January. This now appears to be quite a bit less. So that is encouraging. But even if we just carry on at 45,000 new cases a day, we can't really cope. Well, we can't cope with that. There's going to be this cumulative effect of cases, even though the number is no longer rising from the data that's intimated there. New cases, last 48 hours were 48,000, we said that. So cases in the last 7 days, down 7.74%. So the rate of increase has decreased by 7.4%. The number of new cases down by 7.4%, but still a high number. So that's 7.4% less than the number the week before, but it's still a high number. If it keeps going down at 7.4%, then we'll have 7.4% less than this number next week, but that's still an awful lot of cases. Hospitalizations, unsustainable, 4,000, over 4,000. 36,000 people currently in hospital. Basically everywhere is completely full, overfull, patients being transferred around the country looking for beds. That's the number of patients ventilated. Not sustainable. Last 7 days, hospitalizations are up 34%. This is a massive increase in hospitalizations. Deaths have been high for some days now. Well over 1,000, 1,500, well over 1,000. That's the last 24 hours. 86,000 deaths within 28 days of a positive diagnosis. Deaths up 50% in the past 7 days. And because of the increase in hospitalizations and cases, we can expect deaths to be up next week as well. Deaths where it's mentioned on the death certificate, 93,000. That's the ONS figure, not the Public Health England figure. Better news, we've vaccinated now over 3 million people vaccinated as of 15th of Jan. And getting over 500,000 have had the second dose, although of course we are focusing on getting most people the first essential dose that we believe will stop them getting hospitalised in the vast majority of cases. So levelling off in the UK, but at a very high plateau, a concerningly high plateau, and basically an unsustainable plateau. This needs to go down quite dramatically. But levelling off is better than carrying on going up. United States, quick look at the screen there. Exactly what we predicted. Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year, rapid increase after that, carried on increasing. This increase here partly due to social mixing at Christmas time. This flattening off, unfortunately, is not genuine. It's just the way the data hasn't fed through yet. And likewise, the deaths in the United States continue to climb. So a little more detail on the United States. Last 24 hours, 222,000 new cases. Over 22 million diagnosed now. In fact, 23 million now, isn't it, essentially? New cases up 4.4% in the past 7 days, so carrying on increasing. National positivity rate down slightly, 11.9%, but that still indicates a lot of community transmission. Hospitalisations are now up, 129,000 people in hospital in the United States now. Massive strain in many areas. As we know, not evenly distributed across the country, so some areas are at absolute crisis point. I saw a video recently from Los Angeles County of a nurse looking after 4 patients in intensive care. I mean, I've had busy shifts looking after 1 patient on intensive care, and I've had shifts where I've been looking after 1 patient on a ventilator and 1 patient not on a ventilator, and that's hard. But to have one nurse looking after 4 patients on ventilators, I just don't see that it's possible, and it's certainly not safe. And that is happening in some areas. So it's dire. There's no two ways about it. It's absolutely dire. That's the number of patients in intensive care. That's the number of patients ventilated. Deaths continue to climb in the United States. Dr. Fauci has said that he thinks this is an underestimate, if anything. Deaths are up 19.5% in the past 7 days. So we'd see the increase is not as steep as it has been in the UK. But what I'm really worried about is one of these new variants getting established in the United States. Or even worse, 2 or 3 potentially. So it's not impossible that the United States could end up with circulation of the UK variant, the South Africa variant and the South America variant. It just doesn't bear thinking about, and really precautions need to be taken to stop all of these. We know that the UK variant is fairly widespread in the United States. We don't know that it's causing a lot of transmission at the moment, but it's a frightening possibility, an alarming possibility really. Vaccinations in the United States, poor, 11.5 million. Nowhere near what we thought it was. Second dose, 0.38% of the population. And here we see Bill in Texas receiving his vaccination. Now, Bill writes, here in Texas, the governor was frustrated by the slow rollout of the vaccine and approved vaccinations for all people over 65 and with a list of high-risk medical conditions. So that makes perfect sense. While in where we live in Arlington, Texas, the process is quite orderly, with injections being provided in a convention centre room with proper distancing and delivered by paramedics from the fire department. So well done, gentlemen. And I do hope and ladies, I'm sure, and I do hope the ventilation in that room is good. I don't know what the temperature is in Texas now. Not too cold, I don't think. So let's carry on talking to Bill, or getting a message from Bill, rather. I know the process is more confused and disorderly in other locations. The lack of national leadership on distribution of vaccines to individual arms is quite distressing. I'm fortunate to live in a well-governed area, writes Bill. That's his reading of the situation. Bill finishes, kudos to the Tarrant County Health Department and Arlington Fire Department, with a big assist from the Arlington Police Department for traffic and crowd control. And of course, this is exactly what needs to happen: coordination of the public and coordination of these services to get this vaccine out. Now, I don't know what vaccine Bill is getting. He doesn't say. It will either be the Pfizer or the Moderna, being in the United States. But we believe in a week or two's time that's going to make him much less likely to be very poorly if he gets the infection. So that's good. Then if he gets, in the United States, some of the second doses in the States might be delayed because the current administration and the new administration have both agreed to get as many first doses out as they can, which I agree with. But when they've had the second dose, we're expecting about 95% protection against the infection, and it'd be remarkably unlikely to become very poorly with the infection as well. So just can't get it fast enough. Just wish I had my first one. Anyway, I'm a bit jealous when I see these vaccination pictures. So this is still from missed a bit. So I was going to mention Indonesia briefly here. Now, Indonesia, hugely populated islands, of course. They've had restrictions rather than a full lockdown. Masks are compulsory in most areas, so that's good. Emergency authorization use for the Chinese vaccine was given on the 11th of January. President's received his vaccination on the 13th of January, and they're still waiting for the Oxford vaccine, but they've ordered it. Now, this is interesting. Social media influencers, whatever that means, people on Twitter, I suppose, and what's this, WhatsApp, is it? I think. I genuinely don't know. I don't know how to use WhatsApp. But apparently people that people are following are getting vaccinated first. I guess they want to encourage the vaccination programme, and younger workers aged 18 to 59 are being vaccinated as a priority group. So they're being vaccinated as a priority group. The younger age group, who are less likely to die, are being vaccinated as a priority group. The reasoning is that the Indonesian authorities, and of course there is highly competent epidemiological opinions in Indonesia. For example, this professor here who advises the government, we're targeting those that are most likely to spread the virus. So different strategy from Europe, the UK and the US. In Europe, the UK and the US were targeting those who are most likely to die, well, to be hospitalised or die from the virus, to get the hospitalisations down. Whereas in Indonesia, they're kind of more tackling the root of the tree. They're tackling those that are causing most infections, the drivers of infection. So, interesting strategy. We would assume that the Indonesian authorities know their situation best. So it does make some sense, quite a lot of sense, you could argue. But we could spend several hours arguing about that, so we're not going to. Germany, the death rate's been very high lately, and it looks like the UK variant, the 2012 or the B117 variant, or the same thing, is spreading in Germany. Now, if this is the case, if this variant is becoming established in Germany, then the existing lockdown measures and restrictions they have in Germany, if they maintain those lockdown measures at the same level, then they'll get increased infection because of the increased transmissibility of the virus. That's what we had in the UK. Our old tier 3 restrictions, the R value was 0.8 with the old strain, with exactly the same tier 3 restrictions. The R value went up to 1.2 in the UK. And that will happen in Germany as well, which of course the German authorities are very aware of, but it is an alarming trend that this new variant is spreading. Portugal went into lockdown last night, and we believe Portugal has got cases of the Brazilian variant. Hungary seems to have broken ranks with the European Union. Viktor Orban keen to start using the China vaccine, and he wants national authorization rather than going through the European Medicines Agency, as far as I read it. So that probably won't be a moment of touching international unity, as Ursula von der Leyen said the other day. and we just want to keep politics out of this. Right, I think that is us for today. Let's just look at Leanne, Nick and Andy. Exercising as a social group, as a household bubble group in the outdoors near their home in France. So that's fine. Exercise near home, outdoor, in family bubble groups is a good idea. And long time watchers of the channel. That's why they got a view. So thank you for watching for such a long time. Great to have people watching as a family. Okay, that's us for today. Thank you for watching, of course, as always.